Together, we will have a multi-generational conversation on topics that are considered taboo, risky, controversial, but most of all, thought-provoking. Welcome to Unspoken Conversations. Your words have power. Together, we will have a multi-generational conversation on topics that are considered taboo, risky, controversial, but most of all, thought-provoking. Greetings, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, so look, let me just go ahead and say it now. I got to keep remembering to look up at the camera because otherwise you're going to see me looking down. So not being rude, but sometimes I will be reading. But happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I hope everyone had a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving.
I know I did.
Did you? Oh, you did.
Yes, food made me happy.
Yes, he ate well.
Really good.
He had a moment. I wish I could have caught it on video. I would have shared. He had a moment. I was like, oh, is he in the spirit? He was like,
tongue to that food. Man. Just thinking about it now.
You have flashbacks?
Yeah.
All righty then. Well, we as you can see, we have a special guest with us. Hello. And this is our other cousin. And let me see, I'm supposed to put our names up on the screen. So I don't know. I don't see our names. Where is it? So we call her Tree, but I had her name up here because I wanted everybody to see, and now I don't see it no more. Oh well. Well, it's recording. So it is there, but it's not for some reason, it's not scrolling. I don't know what that's all about. Well, okay. Anywho, we're back. We are pre-recording this episode because again, it is Thanksgiving weekend, and we didn't want anybody. We didn't want to take people away from enjoying their family and their Thanksgiving and resting and so on and so forth. So we decided to pre-record this conversation, though it is definitely a conversation that I'm sure a whole lot of folks would like to engage us on. And so guess what? You can still comment and you can still engage us in comments, questions, concerns, or what have you. I promise that we will be checking the Facebook feed and the YouTube feed and responding back to everybody's comment. So though we are not live, do not allow that to be a hindrance. We are still engaging the audience in conversation, but we're going to actually have a conversation amongst ourselves. And Tree is here because we finally found somebody who is going to be an opposing side. So basically, I have a particular view, and Brandon has a particular view, and Tree has a particular view. And though it may be opposite from ours, I think it still is a view that deserves merit, that deserves to to be shared and discussed. And I definitely think it is it's valid. So in these conversations there is no right or wrong perspective, because we all are bringing something different to the table. But like I said, I think it's important that all perspectives are shared and talked about, and hopefully at some point we all kind of like meet in the middle. So with that being said, today's topic is, as you can see scrolling at the bottom of the screen, life in prison for our children. Now, a few weeks ago, because one of my cousins asked me, "What did I mean by that? Life in prison for our children?" Well, bottom line, you have children here in the United States who are committing murder, and in various states, um, they can and are being sentenced to life, some with parole and some without parole. I personally am opposed to sentencing children to life without the possibility of parole. So to just to give a point of reference, to give a point of reference as to some numbers as it relates to uh, who the age group rather that's being incarcerated. So I looked up some things, and yeah, unfortunately, I do have some statistics to share. Currently in 20 excuse me, in 2023, um, children as young as 13 years old are being sentenced to uh, prison for murder. And I can tell you that right now there are 22 states that allow juvenile life without parole sentences to children as young as 13. I'm sure when I say what these states are, it will be to no surprise to anyone. But the states are Florida, of course, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Arizona, Idaho, Nebraska, Wyoming, Indiana, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and New Hampshire. No, Vermont. Is it? Yeah, New Hampshire, excuse me. Those states, 22 states, currently allow for juveniles to be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. However, 28 states do not. They have banned it 100%. And then you have 5 states that allow it, but they currently do not have anybody incarcerated that it would be considered a juvenile. So the states that allow it, but they just don't have any juveniles currently incarcerated, are Montana, Nebraska, New York, Maine, and what's that little Delaware? That little tiny state. That's Delaware. Yeah, that's Delaware. And Delaware. So with that being said, I also found that in 2012, the Supreme Court said that it was unconstitutional to convict juveniles from murder. So wait, let me read exactly how it's written. Supreme Court said juveniles convicted of murder cannot be subject to a mandatory sentencing of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. So that's my stance. I know that Brandon um, had did some research and want to share with us
Yeah.
what you came across.
So my stance on things, although I do know that there's different types of people in this world, and everything like that. I don't necessarily agree that kids should go to prison for life. Some kids do have a different understanding about life and they mature in a certain way because they've experienced a little bit more. But the conditions that they're getting thrown in is not suitable for them, and is really not suitable for anybody. So, for an example, the prison system in Norway, there's been a big contrast between that. Some of the key points is that the American system focuses on punishing the prisoners. Norway, on the other hand, focuses on rehabilitating their prisoners. Norway has a recidivism rate of 20%, while the United States has a rate of 76.6%. Um,
So,
so
obviously, there's no deterrent.
no,
Here in the United States.
it's no deterrent. And I think that's really mainly because it really doesn't rehabilitate them. Let's take, for instance, my uncle. When I was little, he used to go back and forth to jail, back and forth to prison, over and over and over again. And it was because there was no incentive when he got out. He still struggled to find a job to better himself. So he found himself doing the same thing over and over and over again and ended up getting back in there. So those are the things that they have to address just in general. So for Norway, I don't know why this thing doing that. Lord, come on, stop doing it to me. For Norway, America, drug offenses take up about 50% of the American prison sentencing. This contributes to the country's mass incarceration rate that is 6 to 10 times higher than most countries. That should also tell you something as well. Norway is, on the other hand, focused on rehabilitating and treating the prisoners' addiction. Just like now, America has this, what is it, the opioid epidemic now that they're addressing it, but it's been going on for so long, it only happened when certain communities started being affected by said drugs. That's a whole nother topic. Whole nother time. I don't know why my phone keep doing this to me. Sorry, you guys. All right. Norway's prison cells are much more humane, as they look like small apartments. The United States, in contrast, has a very inhumane environment. Their healthcare system is also widely different. Norway is more people oriented in terms of welfare. It is kept that's kept most people out of trouble. And I think for me, just reading some of that it takes me to the point where the reason sometimes is the reason why these kids keep doing the same thing. They don't really necessarily, it's not that they're just bad or whatever the case may be. And yes, people need to be punished, but if we are going to look towards, giving them some type of punishment and helping them see the light, if you might want to say, we have to do better when it comes to rehabilitating that person. We have to do better with trying to find out what were the key reasons, like why, was the circumstances around them a certain way or whatever the case may be. Just to have I guess you might want to say better society. It's bad to think that we're okay with sending kids to jail for life and just taking everything else away because they made a mistake and they weren't fully thinking about the repercussions. They didn't care about the repercussions. It's like, what are the things that we could do to help them see that, think about later instead of just now. Man, I don't know what else to
Well, so um I went ahead and was looking up this is I was looking up cases where juveniles were sentenced to life. And so the very one of the very first cases that came up, please excuse the doggies um, barking.
Yeah, she been doing a
Um,
lot of extras. She been doing a whole lot of lately.
um, so the very first case that pops up is the case of Lionel Tate. So Lionel Tate, at the age of 13, murdered a 6-year-old girl by using wrestling moves. If you remember, this case happened in the state of Florida. So the actual murder happened in 1999. He was convicted at the age of two. He was convicted in 2001. So that's 2 years later. So he's 15 by the time he actually gets convicted. And he was convicted of first degree murder, which gave him the sentence of life without parole. The state of Florida, well, during that time, the state of Florida said that that was absurd. That they shouldn't, that's not who we are. We shouldn't be sentencing a 15-year-old boy to life without parole. So they really rallied together to, excuse me, to get the conviction overturned. Bless you. So in 2004, the conviction actually did get overturned. And he was then resentenced to 1 year for house arrest, under 1 year house arrest, and then 10 years probation. And I believe that, and they changed his first degree murder conviction to from first degree to second degree murder. Okay. So then in 2000, so he got out because his first year is under house arrest. In 2005, he violates his parole by committing armed robbery, and he ended up being charged, getting 10 years for the armed robbery and 30 years for parole violation. And these sentences are to run concurrently. So those of y'all who are legal scholars, you know that, or those who are not legal scholars, concurrent means they're running at the same time versus consecutive, one after the other. Another case was, and this was fairly recent, an Evan Miller in Alabama, and he was 14 years old, and he robbed he broke into this man's trailer, robbed him, beat him up really bad, and then set the trailer on fire. And they said that during his trial, the 14-year-old said he is God, and that he's come to take, the guy's name was Cole. He came to take, he said, Cole, I am God and I'm here to take your life. And so he killed him. And so he was sentenced to life without parole. And then this was during a time where they were trying to get a lot of these juvenile convictions overturned and converted into lesser sentences. And him coming back to court, and this is when the Supreme Court was like, that it was unconstitutional. However, he came back to court, and the judge was like, "Oh yeah, no, you still going, you still going back to prison, with for life without the possibility of parole." So the first case, the Lionel Tate case. So I remember when that happened, and I remember them talking about.
He said he what?
Who
and coming.
Well, that's Evan Miller. We'll get to Evan Miller shortly. But Lionel Tate, he was 13 years old. His mother was babysitting the little girl. And she was upstairs asleep, and they were downstairs in the lower part of the house playing and what have you, making noise. And so she had told them to be quiet. 45 minutes later, they say that he came upstairs and told his mother that that the little girl wasn't breathing. When an autopsy was done, they said her bruises and the damages to her body were such, they were the equivalent of what she would have sustained if you would have dropped her out of a third story window.
Wow.
I remember this case, and I remember, that I think during the trial, he had said that they was playing there, he was performing wrestling moves on her. So let's take a look at that. So you have a 12, 13-year-old. He is all into WWF. Now, those of us who are adults, we know that WWF for the most part is staged. It's not real.
Yeah, they be doing it, but they don't be doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
But to a 12, 13-year-old, they don't know that.
Yeah, they think it's all real.
He sees the wrestlers, they body slam each other and, pick someone up and flip them back and they fall and whatever. But these people still get up and walk away and walk off the stage. So why would a 12 to 13-year-old think that if he did that to a 5-year-old, that she is not going to get up and walk away? Why would he think that?
He gonna think that, hey, I'm doing the same move they're doing,
Right.
And she's probably gonna get up and we're gonna wrestle again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, granted, her body, she sustained those injuries because she's little. In comparison, he was thick boy. So in comparison to to him, she was little. And so it's understandable why her body, why she sustained those type of injuries. But so when they went to court, one of the reasons why they overturned it, because the prosecutor, they neglected to get him mentally evaluated. And so because of that, they was like, okay, we're going to go ahead and overturn this case. So like I said, I remember when this happened. And let me just go ahead and say, I am absolutely not saying that juveniles should not be held accountable for the things that they do. I am not saying that there should not be some form of incarceration. What I am saying is that at 13 years old, to convict a child at 13 years old to life in prison, let's first think about this. At 13 years old, where exactly are you putting him? So are you putting him in a juvenile detention facility until he gets like 18? and then you move him over to the adult prison, I'd like to think this, which because I really hate to think that you taking a 13-year-old and you putting 13-year-old with other killer grown men.
And then if they don't do that, what's the point of charging them as an adult? Or charging them like they're an adult if you're not going to put them in an adult facility? You just gave them a sentence as if they were adults and they can make their own decisions and care for themselves. So why put them in a juvenile system, but you charge them as an adult? Like a lot of stuff that they do, it don't make sense. Kids do need a second chance or at least a second viewpoint. Like I remember when I was growing up, they had this thing called Scared Straight, where they were taking kids and going throughout cities or whatever. I don't even know if it was staged, but if it was staged, it made me think. You know what I'm saying? As a kid,
I remember Scared Straight, and I remember episode they took them into to Rikers Island. No, that wasn't staged.
Right. So it's just like, yeah, we might not be able to reach every child like that or, whatever. And even on some of them episodes, some of the kids still were combative and still didn't care. So those are the kids that you really need to sit back and say, you know what, we really need to evaluate this kid so we can figure out what we need to do to the other ones that come in. It's just like this. But I don't feel as if they actually care enough. They'll say, oh, well, the children are the future. Well, if the children are the future, why aren't we taking steps to make sure that they can grow up in a safe environment and they can think about something other than what they may see on TV or hear on the radio? So it's tough. Like it's.
Do you think it's a mental illness, or you just think that they just don't have to do it right? They don't have that. What is the word for it? They don't have they're not going in the right direction because ain't nobody telling them how to go in the right direction. So to guide is right. So they just doing whatever.
It could be a little bit of both, but I mean.
But at what age do you start making, like, okay, say for instance, our toddlers, right? They know when they doing right from wrong, right? So what's the difference with 12 and 13-year-olds? They have a choice to make. They know when they're doing right and wrong.
Yeah. I mean, for me, when I can remember 7 years old starting to make decisions at 7.
Okay.
Like I remember a lot.
Making 7-year-old decisions.
Yeah, I was making 7-year, but I remember conversations like, so my parents used to think that they could say certain stuff at the table and I wouldn't understand what they're talking about. And I would have to tell my mom, like, Mom, I know what you're talking about. It's nasty. Or, or right. You know what I mean? So my comprehension, like for some kids, their comprehension is already there. They understand certain things that other kids may not understand. Sometimes it has to deal with whatever school they went to or some of the things that they were just exposed to early on in their life. Like these early childhood parenting books where they say, hey, talk to your kid a certain way and they'll do A, B, C, and D later on. I kind of believe it a little bit. Just a little bit, not all the way to a full extent, but
I don't think that it's a it's not across the board blanket.
No, it's not. But
so,
I mean,
it's
more likely
to what Tree said, like she was saying how our toddlers know they know when they're doing wrong, but understand that your toddler didn't know they was doing wrong until you told them that they was doing wrong. So now your toddler now has something they have something to compare to. So it's to me that's not the same thing. You have to give them a point of reference. That child doesn't know that fire is hot until you show them that fire is hot. Right. That's 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 not a known thing. I think that I think there are several schools of thought as to why children do various things. So again, back to Lionel Tate, without the proper evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know if he was, quote unquote, developmentally challenged. So you don't, he was intrigued by wrestling moves. And now I remember WWF didn't ever come on and say, get no disclaimer that, kids don't try this at home. WWF never did that. So, and kids horseplay and wrestle all the time. So now the question then, because I remember when back then they asked the question, well, shouldn't he have known not to do that with a 13-year-old? Why would he have? Why should he have known? Because he thinks he's playing.
And how old you say he was 12, right?
He was actually 13 when
13 years old. Okay, so this goes back to I might be off the subject a little bit, but this goes back to what was the guy that was killing people and actually eating people?
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Right. So he started when he was like 12, 13-year-olds killing animals. So he already
he was a killing animals.
What he was.
He was like, Dad, can you go back there and get that roadkill?
Yeah. So, like he knew exactly, exactly what he was doing.
No. So if the movie is accurate,
right,
the father was looking for something to bond with him on. And so the father is the one that started picking up roadkill and bringing it home, and then he would sit there and dissect it.
Right.
And Jeffrey became intrigued by it. So because even later on, and if you remember later on in the movie, the father says, I think it's my fault.
Right.
But so to that point, you have to really be careful how you engage with your children, and you must pay attention,
right?
Right. If your child has an unhealthy attraction to hurting things,
he probably but see, he probably didn't think that would lead to him actually killing people and eating people. He probably was like, what, my son's probably gonna be the best hunter out here in the game. He can be able to tell how old something is that he killed before he even he probably.
Did you watch the movie?
Yeah, I didn't even know. I don't even know why. I can't remember what prompted him to eating them.
It just I don't know.
I think that but by that time, because the very first person that he murdered, he didn't eat him.
No, he didn't. It was like way over down like
but he was grown.
Yeah, he was fully grown.
Right. When he started consuming
we probably doing that, don't even know we be doing it half the time.
What?
Human.
Oh, here
that's a whole nother topic.
No.
That's a whole nother topic.
No,
stay focused.
So,
but so I think I was talking to my aunt, and I not saying that this is us or any listener. I'm not talking about anybody in particular, but I will say this about human nature. When we encounter things that we can't explain, things that make us uncomfortable and what have you, we hurry up and excuse it away because we don't want to deal with it.
Right.
Nobody wants to be accountable for things when their children just get out of control. It pains me to listen to parents say that they can't control their children. Are you not the parent? Like, I don't don't quite get that. I don't think is that you can't control the child. I think that a lot of parents are not willing to do what it's going to take to control the child. I don't even think it's a matter of even controlling the child, simply parent.
Right.
Well, I mean, I went to school with this one kid. I remember his name. I ain't gonna say his name. Initials is MB. But when I tell you that boy used to fight everybody, including his mother. Like he didn't have his dad inside the family. I mean, if he did, his dad wasn't ever there as far as in the house anytime I went by or something like that. He might have worked like, overnight or over the road or something. But that boy was very, very, very disrespectful to his mother. Mm-hmm. That was the first time I ever seen somebody cuss their mom out as a child. I'm like, what?
And then what did the mother do?
She didn't do nothing. She was short and he was all types of big. Like I done seen him hit the mom and the whole lot. Like it was almost like a grown man.
He hit his mother?
Yeah.
And
that boy was
and she didn't have the child arrested?
Nope.
Right.
So was she scared of him?
I think so.
Mm-hmm. So that's
like,
a problem.
It's a problem. Like I just
how you gonna be afraid of your own child? The child you birthed, right? You don't be fearful. You acknowledge what you see happening, and you take the necessary steps.
Some of these kids, man, they just the term demon time that they use nowadays. And they use a little emoji with the horns and everything like that. Like whatever spirit be going up in them at that moment, I don't know what it is, man. But sometimes it's some kids out here where they take it to the extreme because they're not being challenged. So then they get to a point where it's just like ain't nobody gonna be able to tell them nothing.
Okay, so it's funny how everything always rolls back to parenting. So here's the thing. So granted, I'm not saying that your child is a pet and what have you, but the same way that you train a pet, you train a dog, what have you, it's pretty much the same exact thing that you do with your children. You know what it is? It's called consistency. Mm-hmm. You must be consistent 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. It's because so many parents they vary from time. There's so many variables in the raising of their children that their children get confused. Children, when you stop and think about it, that you think about the human brain, coming out of the womb and what have you. That brain is your ball of clay to be able to do just about anything and everything with it. You, the parent, are the direct influence into what that child learns or does not learn. Mm-hmm. You are the parent is that child's foundation. If you do not create a foundation for that child, so, and I mean, you could take it to a literal point. You think of a foundation. A foundation is designed to keep you sturdy, to keep you firm, and to then give you something to build upon. But if you don't have no foundation, then you ain't got nothing to stand on, and you don't have nothing to build upon. So now, as a toddler, things are starting to get shaky. Mm-hmm. Children come into this world, right, and their only concerns are safety and eating and sleeping. Then the eating and sleeping part or whatever, that's the logistical part, I would say, of it. The safety part, the safe place, feeling protected, that runs deep. Yeah. And if the child can't, and the child comes into the world, to a mother and father, sometimes maybe just to the mother, and if the mother dies in childbirth, okay, so then it's just to the father. But nonetheless, the child recognizes, right, that there is an individual put in their life, and that individual's job is to protect them. That's all they know. That's all they really care about. Okay? All that other stuff that means nothing to them because those other things don't play a part just yet. They safety, security.
Mm-hmm.
That's all a kid wants and needs. But now think about the kid who does not get that at all.
So they go to the streets to get it.
But even before we get to the before we get to the street, because they eventually don't get there. But you not have a child who is unstable because he doesn't have a safe place. He doesn't have anyone nurturing him or her. He doesn't have anybody showing him love. You know, he's not getting none of that. So what happens? Animal instinct starts to kick in. And he or she now is survival of the fittest, you know, because now you don't have that parent to depend on. So now you depend on yourself. There have been instances where you had like 3 and 4 year olds who were like left, you know, like in other countries, who were like left out there, and they literally figured out how to fend for themselves. Whether it be they was eating out of garbage and sleeping up underneath trees and what have you. But if you leave a child unattended, they don't just lay there and die. Now, an infant might lay there and die, but 3, 4 years old, they about to figure that thing out. Animal instinct kicks in, you know, and they're going to survive. But now you got a child who has no direction, who has no boundaries, has nothing to tell them, no, you don't do that. No, this is not what we do. You just left them to their own vices. So now they got to figure it out for themselves.
Man, I've seen some kids with all the things that I didn't necessarily have. Mm-hmm. Right. So I've seen kids that grow up with both of their parents. Mm-hmm. I've seen kids not have to worry about what they eat. Mm-hmm. From time to time. I've seen kids that stayed in one pretty much community their whole life. They knew all their neighbors and they had best friends. They had childhood friends, and they still grew up to be terrible.
Because it's something still missing.
It's something still missing. They got both parents in the house, and they're getting all the necessities, material wise, that they need. You know what I mean? Like for me, for instance, I don't know if I was an anomaly or what, but I moved everywhere. Like I moved from Memphis to California, from California to North Carolina, from North Carolina to Memphis, back to North Carolina to Virginia, to, you know what I mean? Like I done moved so much, right? You know what I mean? I've seen so many different things. I've been around so many different people. I have two best friends, right? One, he grew up with both his parents. He had siblings in the whole 9 yards. Me and him never been in trouble. I got another one. He grew up with his mother and his father or whatever. Never been in trouble. Right. But I'm the one that didn't grow up with both of my parents in the household. So like I should pretty much be fitting for a portion of the stereotype. Not all of it, but just a portion of it. And I don't fit none of it. Like absolutely none of it. And for me, I feel like it's some type of divinity to allow something to happen and something else not to happen. Right? Because I could have been the drug dealer. I could have been the guy that was like, man, I ain't got no dad, bump this, blah, 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 blah. Forget what my mom trying to tell me. She's trying to tell me to be a certain type of way, and that's soft. I don't want to do that. I could be, it won't nothing but. To me, I felt as if other than the things my mom said to me, I felt it had to be some type of divine power because I was out there in the streets. I was just making different decisions. I was really like listening to what my mother had to say.
Well, there you go.
And that was, that's the only thing I did. Like I saw my uncle get in trouble. I didn't want to do that route. You know what I mean? And I just listened. Like, but I had these instances at too young of an age to make bad decisions where it could have went left real bad. And I just decided to not do that. Because when I was younger, we could go outside and be outside till the street lights come on. But thinking how much stuff goes on out there. And man, it'd be so much stuff to where you just like, ooh, nope, I'm gonna get in trouble. And I won't think of
a good kid.
Yeah, and I won't thinking about getting in trouble with the police.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about disappointing my mom and getting in trouble with my mom.
So I feel like you basically stated the very thing that I believe that a lot of these children are missing. So you take a child who has both parents at home, he or she don't want for nothing. Anything and everything they want, they got. They go to a private school, so their parents is paying buku money to send them to a private school. I mean, they got the worst. Right, they got the best of the best of the best. Mm-hmm. However, those same children, right, schools. Don't. But before they get to the shooting up schools, right? Maybe I would love to find out how many of those kids actually sit down at a dining room table and have dinner with their parents.
Oh, they still have a functioning, like everything still works like how it would be in a book, right? Like in a fairy tale, people of, I'm gonna sit here and do this, that, and the third. They probably still have conversations, but it's that connection of love.
I love you though. They there.
They're
not getting that
compassion and
that nurturing.
There's something missing.
Yeah.
Did you get that A? You better have gotten that A, because if you ain't get that A, you ain't get
right. So you have a father, right, who's very stern, and he was like, he don't even he or she, the parent that doesn't even give you room to make a mistake.
Right.
You're not allowed to make a mistake. You look, if you bring a bee in the house, that's the end of the world.
And that goes back to that movie we watched last night. Her parents gave her everything she wanted, but she still made the worst decisions in life.
Mm-hmm. And what was for her? What was missing?
That love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. See, our children are not that complicated. Children are not complicated at all. We complicate their lives. We're giving them extra stuff than the stuff that they need.
And we try to fulfill their life with the things that we probably didn't get. It's like, man, my child didn't grow up with this, so I want them to have this. No,
but here's the thing: there's nothing wrong with you wanting to give your child, things that you didn't have, but there has to be a perspective to it that you not just. First of all, you got to think about this. Maybe some of the things that you didn't have, you wasn't meant to have. And
that's how I thought.
Guess what? Maybe some of those things, if you would have got them, those very things might have did you in.
You know how I understood that as a kid? It was one time, it was Halloween, right? And we was getting candy. And it was a piece of candy I couldn't open, right? My mom was like, if you can't open it, you don't need it. And I was like, I'm gonna try my best. And as I'm trying, I got cut. And it was something actually in the candy.
Oh, wow.
So it was like ever since then, I was just like, you know what? If I ask my mom for something and she don't get it, I must didn't need it anyway. Mm-hmm. And I went through life thinking that way. Like if I don't have it, then
think about like we've heard of instances of children who grew up with well-to-do parents or what have you, and so they want to at 16 years old they get a driver's license, and so they want a sports car, and the parent gets them a Porsche, and then about 6 months later they done wrap themselves around somebody's tree. Was that parent responsible?
Yes.
Well, responsible, and were they being responsible? Like, were they being a responsible parent, knowing that your 16-year-old just got their license? You gave your 16-year-old a Porsche.
They didn't need no Porsche.
They didn't even learn how to appreciate anything yet.
Right.
They didn't learn how to but not only that.
I bought mine.
Not only that, like look, you got parents. You got parents who live parents. So perfect example is the boy that his parents gave him a shotgun. They gave him the gun, look, seems to be the rifle of choice. And he went and he shot up his school, but his parents had gave him that gun that Christmas before. That's the one that his parents got in trouble too.
Oh, it was a AR-15 or something.
Yeah,
yeah. Right. Oh, yeah.
You he was, how old the boy was? 16?
Yeah,
why you gave your 16-year-old an AR-15?
Well, see, they do a whole.
Well,
they do a whole lot.
Because he had the right to bear arms.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He's 16 years old. He ain't even got the right to vote yet. So what are you doing with an AR-15?
But see, it's a lot of stuff that be fitting the narrative until it don't fit the narrative. You know what I mean? And they will drag it into the mud, and they'll willfully stay ignorant. And it's not by accident. It be by choice. They know these things, and they understand those things, but they don't want to listen because it doesn't affect them at the moment. And then when it does affect them, they try their hardest to wiggle around it and use some type of excuse instead of taking accountability.
Right, the parent.
So,
right. And so all of this, we're saying all of this to say that again, not negating the fact that you have children out here who have done some really, really heinous stuff. Stuff that a lot of us as adults, we would never think to do those things. And so here's the thing. If as an adult, you know that you could never do the heinous crimes that these children have committed on your worst day, you know that you could not do these heinous crimes that these children have done.
I think I got a solution.
Why does it not trouble you that children who ain't been on this planet longer than you have, who have not experienced the level of things that you have experienced, the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows, the disappointment. Yeah, children experience disappointment, but a child ain't experienced disappointment that adults experience, and to the magnitude that an adult experience it. But these little people they're not even that vested into the planet yet, are committing these heinous crimes, and some of us, feel like, well. And this is to coin my aunts, and love you, auntie, if you end up watching. But I'm gonna coin what you said. You said that if they can do an adult crime, then they should receive adult punishment.
I agree.
Well, my thing, well, good. So I said I wanted you to join this conversation because you have an opposing view, and so great. I get to ask you these questions. I want you to to make your point. I ain't saying that I'm gonna change my mind, but I will absolutely entertain what you're saying. And I mean, look, because bottom line is facts is facts. Was right is right. My issue with that statement, before you go into your reasoning, my issue with that statement is her exact statement was, if a child does an adult crime, that they should receive an adult punishment. Well, first of all, there is no age to crime. Murder, you don't have to be a certain age to commit murder. You can just commit murder. Every last one of us have the ability to take a life. If you're 5 years old and you pick up a gun and it's loaded and the safety is not on it, and you point it, and you shoot somebody dead smack dab in their chest, they're probably going to die. That 5-year-old murdered somebody. That's not an adult crime. The child, there's no such thing as an adult crime. It's just crime. So
it's like saying the black on black crime. It's no such thing.
Right. Crime. murder is murder. Look, murder is murder. Whatever the crimes are that there's no specific age limit that you attach to a particular thing. That makes sense. But again, you have an opposing view, and I absolutely want to give you the stage to voice your position on it, because I know you feel very strongly about it, because as Jacques said, she was like, I agree. Stay prayed up, stay safe, stay alert, and we will see you in 2 weeks. 2 weeks we will be hopefully discussing with a new author on a book that she wrote. I'm really excited about it. I think it's a interesting topic to engage the people with. So be on the lookout for the advertisement for that. I promise to advertise for that. So in the famous words of my boy Russell Simmons, thank y'all for coming out. I love that.
Somebody else.
Russell Simmons. Thank y'all for coming out. God bless you and good night.
Good night.
Unspoken Conversations. Your words have power. Our goal is to educate and inspire positive action that will motivate change and understanding. Thank you for joining us.